Yep. Okay. All right. Well, we're a few minutes early, but I'll tell you what, we'll get done. We'll be a few minutes getting out too. We are sorry about the temperature. We're kind of working on that just a minute ago. See if we get it fixed. If your schools are a lot like mine, we fight with it constantly for them to keep the air on in the ag building all day long for us as well, all summer long. So we constantly, the thing is, there's somebody that's got a phone that's fancy enough to run this entire university, and they're sitting over there going, should I turn it on? Should I not? So, we're going to present today on public speaking, and we get the call. We like to share, by the way. I think anybody who has a little success in anything that they do, ultimately for us, as far as ag teachers go, we love to share. And so when they call us, we're usually like, yeah, we love to help out. So my name is David Turner. I'm at Owasso. Real quick, my track getting there. From Eufaula, actually. Anybody know where Eufaula is at? No one? Cool. Everybody from West Oklahoma? Okay, we got some Eastern Oklahoma. Okay. So I'm from Eufaula, and I'll be honest, I wasn't that good of a public speaker myself. I'm still not that great of a public speaker myself. But I got to witness a great public speaker, my sister. She was maybe the best. I mean, I'm biased, right? I get it. But she was really, really good. And as we came through high school and we found our things as siblings, we competed for a lot of things. I honestly didn't want to be as good as her in my mind because I didn't think it was attainable, I guess put it that way. She was really, really good. She was what maybe as natural as they come from the standpoint of my ag teacher helped her. Don't get me wrong, my ag teacher helped. We had family members that would listen to her and stuff, but she just had a presence about her that was kind of hard to coach. So with that being said, I watched that. And yes, I gave some speeches and I was okay. But she was one of those kind of annoying ones. We have some now, and I actually always kind of in awe of greatness. But would show up in 3 areas at state, and some kids are just working their butt off to get there one year in one area just to get there, And she'd show up kind of nonchalantly in 3 areas and go, yeah, that 4th one I decided not to give. I'm like, what a jerk, So she was really, really, really good, and I got to watch and witness that. So I kind of secretly was taking notes all along, not knowing for sure I was going to be an ag teacher. She does go on to get elected to state office. Time comes for me to run for office. I really probably wasn't going to do it, honestly, if it wasn't for her sitting me down basically saying, it can be your dream too. Like, you can do this too. So I did run, and I was a state officer and went through college, stayed involved in the university, of course. When I got out, I started coming out, I got the call from Owasso to come to Owasso, and I was kind of shocked. And by the way, I'm a bigger sweater than anybody in here, so I went and got me a rag mix, so I'm going to sweat. So if you're sweating, just know that I'm sweating worse than you are. So we come out, I got the Owasso interviewed. I was kind of interviewed with the idea that we want to jumpstart this program a little bit more. It's been there, tradition has been there, but Mr. Nemechek actually was the guy who hired me to be his teaching partner. And so I got to work with Mr. Nemechek, and that's what he said. We just need a jumpstart, kind of just a little spark again. And I interviewed, kind of thinking to myself, and I said all the right things in the interview, and I got the job. And then after they offered me the job, I was like, crap, I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to coach public speaking. I learned how to develop that. And so we jumped in, and just me and Mr. Nemechek together really sent out to make a splash. So real quickly, if you're a younger ag teacher in the room, and I hope that's really probably more who I'm geared toward today. If you're older and you're just here to pick up some things, that's awesome. I'm glad. But if you're young, you're thinking, how do I do this? How do we get started? In 2004, we had 2 public speakers in Owasso. 2004. Now, some of you are like, well, that's a long time ago. For me, that was not that long ago. 2004, I'm 41, by the way, turned 41 this year, this month, actually. And so it was not that long ago for me. And I remember starting pretty kind of defeated, feeling like we had 2. One was a starter on the football team, but he loved ag too. And the other one was she had all the heart in the world, but really wasn't all that great at it. But they wanted to be the public speaking team. That's who we had. We got started. Halfway through the season, I think we ended up with just one, her. One of those awkward deals where I had to holler at her mom everywhere because I wouldn't holler by myself. And me and Mr. Nemechek, we kind of split that up. So her mom got to go as many speech contests as she did that year. And we just kind of built from there. Next year, I think there was 5. Started seeing a little more success. Next year, I think we had about a dozen. Started seeing a little more success. 2008 or so, I think we had about 16 or 17. They were all pretty salty. They kind of get along pretty good. And then after that, I left. I went home to Eufaula. I called my best friend from high school and college, and that was Mr. Holloway. to come take my spot at Owasso, and he did, luckily for all of us. And they continued to, him and Shanice just grew the thing continuously. But when I say we grew it, it wasn't that we set out to do that. We set out to have a great public speaking team. But like a lot of you that are really good at something, you're going to see it grow. I could probably look around the room and I could pick on some of you guys and go, I know you're really good at this, and probably without trying, you have pretty big numbers in these areas. So we have some pretty big numbers. Matter of fact, I'm usually embarrassed to talk about how many kids want to speak for us. We literally probably have more kids coming into the program now because of tradition and legacy, which, again, I can talk about livestock teams. And listen, Owasso kind of has a thing we're kind of good at. We feel like we are. We get along. We get beat, but we get along pretty good. But do you hear our name in livestock judging? No. Do you hear our name I could name several areas that we can't do it all, put it that way. And probably, honestly, neither can you. But it's one of those areas we picked on and said, we're going to try to make this one of our things. And it became one of our things pretty easily, honestly. It fits our community really well, put it that way. It fits our community pretty well. We have more kids signing up to be in ag, to give a speech than to even show livestock. And we have quite a few of those as well. We'll probably have 90 kids show livestock. But all of them are seeing hogs for the first time as an 8th grader. They've never seen a hog before. So we're starting with kids that are very much suburban kids, but the public speaking deal really fits us well. So we grow it, we push it, so to speak, but we don't push it really hard. It just kind of happens naturally. So I'm here today just to kind of tell you how we do it. Simple as that. I wish I could tell you there's some master plan that was just like, man, like this is it. It's a big secret. It is no secret. I've probably shared this more times than I've done anything else in my career, is share kind of what we do with speeches and how we get started. So with that being said, if you don't mind pass out those. I've sat through a bunch of these professional developments, and I first started out with a slideshow that was like, and by the way, when I saved this, I saved it as a slideshow, and I'm not sure how it's saved like this, and I don't really care to figure it out, but it's all there. It's going to scroll versus flip from side to slide. Y'all probably know, I just don't know. So when I sit through these professional developments, I know this, especially it's warm in here. If you just give me all the information, I'm checked out and I'm kind of done. I'm like, the next one starts at 10, I'll go over there, get me a drink. And so if you want anything from me, you're going to have to write it down. And you're going to get something that way, right? Carrie's like, great, what a guy. But you get a chance to, I guess what I say is that you'll take away from this what you want to take away from it. If you're going to pick out a few things you want to kind of, hey, these are maybe some good points, do that. If you want like kind of play by play, we'll tell you that as well. And you can write a few things down as we go, okay? So just first things first, kind of getting started. Remember, we are talking about public speaking. I mentioned earlier I had a birthday, June 3rd. I turned 41, celebrated my youngest child's birthday a week ago, and then this week was my oldest child's birthday. We're all packed in there right there. Anybody else have birthdays in June? Any May's? Summertime. Anybody have a, thank you, one? Thanks. Do we have anybody had a birthday between May and backing up to February? Anybody have a birthday in there? One more? Okay, Josh, come on down here. 2 volunteers, 3, going 3, 4. We got 4 volunteers. Come on down. You guys are great. Thanks for raising your hand. Appreciate that. You got a few volunteers. So we're going to talk about public speaking, so we're going to do a little bit of public speaking. So I want to make sure you understand what we're asking of the kids, right? Kind of put yourself back in their role. So just on the spot, real quick, just tell us your name and about the community maybe that you teach in, real quick.
Name's Charlie Jenkins. I teach at Westville. Small community. We are a 2-teacher program inside the city limits, pretty low income, probably 90% native in some ways, but you get out in the rural parts, very pretty, a lot of poultry farms and cattle.
Okay. Josh, tell us your name, and see, you've recently moved communities kind of, so tell us a little bit about that switch.
My name is Josh Davis. I teach at North Rock Creek. It is between Shawnee and Meeker on Highway 18, so if you know where Shawnee is. It's kind of a suburban school, but the uniqueness to it is it's a brand new program, and it started the year of COVID, but they were a K-8 school prior to ever being a high school and ever having ag ed, and so there's been a transition for me. I grew up in northeastern Oklahoma in a smaller school and have kind of taught in smaller schools and rural communities, and so it's been an adjustment for me to kind of learn that more urban, suburban type demographic, I guess.
Mr. Coulter, I mean, you've got a little bit of experience probably on some of us. Just,
I'm here
it's a free, you get extemporaneous. You can talk about anything you want to for a few minutes.
Well, my name's Randy Coulter. I've taught 37 years. Like Mr. Turner, I started out in a very large high school. I taught at Broken Arrow.
Right.
And honestly, back when I was looking for a job, they were really hard for a right out of college kid to get. So I got hired 5 days before school started. And I thought, well, I'll just go to Broken Arrow. It's a job, it's a paycheck, and I'll get back home. I grew up down at Noble, and at that time, Noble had a very strong FFA program, had some state and national officers. Mr. Nemechek was a little younger than me, and so very familiar with the ag program, but I was never in FFA in high school. My dad was a 4-H agent.
Okay.
So I stayed in 4-H through high school. But anyway, long story short, I spent 22 years at Broken Arrow, and then, I don't know, I just always wanted to try teaching a program by myself. Haskell opened up, so 15 years ago I moved to Haskell, and the first week I was there, I was like, what the heck was I thinking? Because I went from a 4-teacher program to a it's all on me program. We had about 200 head of livestock, and I was honestly overwhelmed in a way. But I've enjoyed teaching. Everybody asks me all the time, when are you retiring? I'm still going.
We weren't trying to kick you out.
Sometimes you get that feeling like maybe they want me to retire, but I still enjoy the kids, and I think it kind of keeps me motivated to learn.
When you're here, so you're trying to learn more and trying to figure more things
Old
out.
dog trying to learn some new tricks. So.
Hey, give our volunteers a big round of applause real quick. Anybody else want to volunteer? Okay, that happens. Just this Sunday in church, my Sunday school class, there's about 20 young adults that meet in there, young marrieds, and you probably experience the same thing I have. You're like, hey, anybody want to read? You know, Matthew 16, and 20 people, all churchgoers most of our lives and stuff. People raise their hand to volunteer. Nobody. I'm sitting there. I'm here today doing this public speaking deal. I'm like, I'm going here, no way. Eventually he calls me, hey, Terry, want to read? And I break out, kind of a cold sweat. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, sure. I'm like, oh my God, So realize that when we're asking kids to do public speaking, or you're trying to motivate them to do public speaking, that's what we're asking them. Probably every one of you are kind of thinking down, as soon as this happens, right? You're in my shoes every day, 4 or 5 times a day. You're up there, you're the teacher, you got a class, and you start asking for volunteers. And right now, as soon as I ask for volunteer, I don't know if you caught this, but a lot of you guys start looking down. You're like, well, I'm volunteer. I don't make eye contact, and I just look down here. I think I lost my keys down there. Where are they at? Just real quickly, kind of want to check out a little bit. So we experience the same thing. You want them to be involved, you got to find it. You can't just go, hey, guess what? You're going to give a speech. And that works for a few, but very, very few. So as much as developing a speech and presentation, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about, how do we get them there, right? We start about 75 speakers a year. It's stupid, I know. It's crazy numbers, but we start about that many. It's really not. So we think about 180 kids in our program. Here's the thing. It doesn't seem all that overwhelming. It's a lot of work. It's a lot, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't seem just all that overwhelming because there's a little bit of a system in place, okay? And so I'll kind of take you through a little bit of that system. Keep this in mind. I wrote this down. If you have never heard this word, glossophobia is actually the phobia of public speaking. It's very real. Every year, you take the poll. I didn't look it up this yesterday or anything before I came, but every year public speaking falls in the top 1 or 2 spots for the biggest fears in America. Sometimes flying edges it out a little bit. Sometimes fear of snakes or spiders kind of edges it out. You know what never edges it out? Death, dying. People would rather die than give a speech, than do public speaking. And I get that. I'm not saying I'm beyond it. I was nervous today coming over here, right? Presenting to you guys. I mean, we got the Godfather over here, and at least of Omogi County. And I'm nervous in front of some of you guys, right? Some of you guys were I judged a lot of you as speakers, and you're way better than I am. So that makes me a little nervous. But yeah, it's something we all overcame. You become an ag teacher, so you're overcoming it if you haven't already. And so it's just kind of helping your kids kind of get through that process. I'll say this. We were going to do, if I had more volunteers, we were going to do a little opening and closing ceremonies. Why? Because you can write this down. I'm not sure what to say. Roll up a little bit. Where do I start? Honestly, for us, before we ever start thinking about speeches, we have this tailor-made deal that started back in like 2006 or 7. I don't remember exactly. Some of you guys might, but around 6 or 7, we started opening and closing ceremonies. And it was like, we caught on like that. And the initial thought process was, let's get more people and chapters and teams doing Parley Pro. And I don't know if that worked. Let me rephrase that. It didn't work. We found, right, Josh? We found that what it does is create a really great junior contest to get people involved in public speaking. And then yet, when you get ready to do Parley Pro, and to me, this is my experience, it may be people who train to Parley Pro team. My experience is it's just overwhelming. We start a lot more teams than we finish. At some point, they get into it and go, whoa, it's a lot to take on. And it is. I get it. I tell them going into it, it's probably the toughest CDE we do. I'm not saying it's most competitive from the standpoint of there's not as many teams doing it, but it is tough. I've started some teams before, like a week before state contest, right? Y'all have to. And you took them to state, they did okay, right? You can't do that Parley Pro. You can't go, yeah, let's do Parley Pro next week. You can't do that. So we thought OCC would do that. It really didn't. I call it OCC, OCC versus OC, but because to me they're like the closing parts in there too. So we start with opening and closing ceremonies. Mr. Holloway's been teaching 8th grade classes. I give him credit. He's probably better at that than I am from that standpoint. He's able to motivate every 8th grader, to do opening and closing ceremonies, at least in class. Now, see, everybody is on a team. They do it in class, and he makes it fun. It's a challenge. I mean, it's loud in there when they're doing it. We bring the upperclassmen over. We usually demonstrate with a lot of upperclassmen, which we're going to do today as well. So I thought you might want to see some of our speakers. So just bear with them when we get ready to go later. What time did I call you guys yesterday? 4 o'clock? 5 o'clock? I was like, hey, I got this idea. Would you be willing to? And they both were like, yeah, we do. And I actually had several more officers that they were out of town. One was in Florida, one was somewhere else. They were like, I'd do it, but I'm not even in Owasso. So they're going to give a little bit of their speech, just a little bit of it. So you can just see, again, I'm kind of, in my mind, thinking if you've never really started speakers, or if you're like, how do I really get started? What are they supposed to look like? I think it would help just to see. And so I'm not saying they're the best. In my mind, they're great, but they're going to give you a bit of a rendition about how Owasso sounds, I guess, at least. So, okay, so we start with OCC in 8th grade. So I'm just kind of starting to the process. Before we get to writing speeches, everybody does opening and closing ceremonies. And out of that group of 60 8th graders, we start about 60 8th graders every year. Out of that group of them, we'll probably have about 35 or 40 of them take it pretty serious, honestly. And they want to kind of be competitive. So what do? We host our own contest. How many people's been in our contest? Yeah, you're probably like, yeah, you host his own contest just like win his own contest. So, well, we don't mean to do that, but we do try. We try, don't get me wrong. And we do host a contest. We've invited, it's kind of nearly just become an invitation anymore, like the people who normally come is who we send it out to. And more than anything else, it's just a good trial basis. Everybody gets their feet wet for the first time. And for us, a bunch of kids that may not go on and make great speakers, at least get their feet wet. And what typically happens for us, competition drives the motivation, and they get kind of fired up. We'll have a team do good and have a team kind of do good, and that team wants to do better than that team. And we got competing presidents who are like, man, if I was a little bit better, I'd be the president of that team. And we just kind of we have fun with it. And we shift kids around. And we tell them like next man up mentality, like, you're not doing so great. We're going to pull a vice president up that's a little better than you, And in the end, we end up with a couple of pretty good 8th grade teams. And we have fun with it. I've never really had a kid feel like they get their feelings hurt about it. We really have fun with it. Well, that carries on. We will have a few 8th grade speakers, okay, but I'm going to kind of give you the major process. Those are a little bit of outliers. We probably won't have, this year we had like 10, but a lot of times we'll have more like 4 or 5 8th graders really want to give a speech. And that'll jump into when we actually write speeches. But when we go in the freshman year, we kind of go into it with this mentality. We're seeing the best of those 8th graders. We need one OCC team as freshmen, and we're going to try to win state. I mean, we're not just doing it for fun. We're trying to win state. And that's our goal. I mean, so we start out with the goal in mind, I guess. So you write something down. It's like, how good do you want to be? Do you want to have 5 speakers? Do you want to go to state? I usually don't tell kids to set a goal to go to state the first time. But in OCC, by the time they've done it as an 8th grader, we're expecting to go to state. And I'm telling you all this, I know you're thinking, get to speeches. I'm telling you, this is how we get to speeches. We develop those speakers before we worry about really having speeches. Okay? Does that make sense? We try to develop speakers before we try to get speeches. Typically, if you're a good program and you go up and down the road with these kids, you work. I get this question a lot. Where do you find topics? You know, be honest, I find very few topics, and I think we do this pretty well. Our kids get a pretty good, just well-rounded experience about ACT. And if you're going up and down the road with them, and they're going to alumni camp, they're hearing that one great motivational story from that one SGL, and all of a sudden they got themselves a really good intro. They're just kind of putting in their back pocket and they're going to use next year on their speech. And then we take them to a judging contest somewhere, and they hear about this, and they get to talking with someone, and like, hey, would this be a topic? Yeah, it'd be a great topic. On topics, let me throw this out real quick. As things hit me, I'm just going to say them. On topics, I've shifted gears several times about my philosophy on topics. You might be under the impression, it's getting better, by the way. You know, yeah, it's getting better. I don't know how cool it is for y'all, but I'm feeling better. So topics, I used to think, I'm gonna pick on Mr. Jones a lot because if Mr. Jones got a speaker there, I'm worried. So we try to beat him as much as we can, right? I mean, he's one of several part of this room, but he's one that we always kind of pay attention to, right? He might be under the impression that you got to have a dynamite topic. I used to feel that way. I used to feel like we had to have the best topics. And my thought process now, because I've seen it happen too many times at state, just good topics still win state. Still go on the nationals and win. I can give you some, I'm not going to mention them because it may be your kid's topic or maybe a kid that you know, and I don't want to sound like I'm dogging them, but I've read some speeches that I'm like, that wasn't state, you know, that's good, okay. But here's why I feel like it's winning. It's passion. If they're passionate about worm farming, they can win state with it. If they're passionate about the next great farrier ideas about shooting horses, they can probably go win state with it. Bottom line is I've just seen it happen. So I'm going to use Ella for an example. Ella's right here. Stand up, Ella. Ella and Mason, by the way. You give them a round of applause for being here on Monday when they didn't have to come. Both their sisters are going to be ag teachers, or older sisters. Maybe we'll get them recruited as well. But Ella gave a speech on basically the animal products that go into, that used to especially helping diabetics. Ella's a diabetic. I say that because it kind of plays into the story. And Ella, like, we have a good relationship, of course. I know her parents well and stuff, but if I get a call from her mom and I'm at an event, I start going to find Ella right away because her mom can monitor her blood sugar, and Ella's pretty up and down. Like, it's pretty dramatic. And she'll be fine one minute, and next minute I'm like, you okay? She's like, I'll be okay. I just got to get something. She's eating the Tootsie Rolls on the way over here. She's like, I'm good. So she's like, it's entertaining to me, right? Because I'm very interested. I live with it. And I said, I think you should give a speech on it. It's not the most scientific. It's not the deepest topic, but man, you know, it's personal. And I did have one judge tell me this. You'd be lucky that there was a couple of diabetics in the room. You know, she might not have made it out. I'm like, yeah, but there was a couple of diabetics in the room. Because point being is a lot of people either struggle with it, they know someone who does, they live with someone who does. And so it's a topic that a lot of people can relate to. Is it the most scientific or in depth? No. We talked about that. Like, is it good enough to win state? Where'd you place this year? Second at state? Oh, I guess we missed the mark, right? But we felt like it was good enough, so to speak. And she's passionate, and she delivered it in such a way that made you go, like, at the end, you feel like you know her. She tells a personal story to it. I think it was a powerful speech. So I guess I would say this. If you're looking for a hot topic, I can give you some sources to go find some hot topics. That's fine. But I would say this probably more so. And I may differ from other people. If I do, hey, you just pick your poison. I don't care. But go with what works for you in your program. In our program, I really want to see, are you passionate about it? They bring me really science. And I'll say this too. and I hate being recorded because I'm like, someone's going to see this someday. We had a group of seniors this year that was probably as good as any set we've ever put together as far as in one chapter, in one class. They were dynamic speakers. They were good. And we didn't get that many of them out to stay. And I really kind of looked back. They were also, you've all been in a room where you, hopefully around adults and stuff, where you're like, I'm not the smartest person standing here. Right? You're like that. With those senior girls I had, I often feel like, I'm not the smartest person standing here. You know, they're my students, and they're just up here, and I'm here. They were very academia, like they were very smart. And I think probably we let their speeches get a little too deep. Like they were just heavy. Like they were like, sometimes I'm the ag teacher, help them with their speech and everything, and I'm still going, I'm not sure I understand your speech. Like it's so deep. It's really, really good, but I think we probably lost some judges along the way. And I think that's probably, looking back, we probably went a little too much the wrong direction with that. So it doesn't have to be the most in-depth speech. Will that win state? Sure, I can. But I guess ultimately, no matter what you feel about the speech, the kids have got to be passionate about it. So I just try to find their interest in ag and try to help them find a topic that relates to that. So and that's a lot of times how I tell them to start. So if you want another tip from me, I tell them to find 3 things that's ag related, obviously, like in ag. Like, what do you enjoy about ag? Well, I like showing pigs. Good, write that down, pigs. What else you like? Well, I kind of like going to lawnmower camp. Okay, put leadership down. Okay, write that down. What's something else you enjoy? You know, so we go find the things that they enjoy in ag and then try to look into those areas and see if we can't find a topic that will work. So that's ultimately how we do that. Let's see, opening ceremonies, when we move past that, like I said, we'll have a few 8th graders that jump on board. We'll have a few freshmen that jump on board. The next big thing we really push towards is we try to set out and win the creed contest every year. By the way, we haven't done that yet, so but it keeps us hungry. So we set out and try to win the creed contest. So I tell all of our freshmen, you can give a speech, but if you're a freshman, you're worth your salt at all as far as public speakers. You need to be given the creed. It's kind of rite of passage, kind of traditional, and we set out to try to be good at that as well. So right away, we're all the way through their freshman year, and they might have given a speech, but some of our best speakers have never given a speech yet. They've done opening and closing ceremonies, they've done creed, and their sophomore year might be the first time they write a speech. So now you may think that's completely reverse what I've always heard. Again, we have some really great 8th grade speakers. We'll have some really great freshman speakers, but that's a little bit of an outlier for me in my program. So, okay. Moving forward, we'll try to get to the good stuff. Let's see. Incentives. You roll that up a little bit. Yeah, what's it? Thank you. What's in it for them? That's the other big part to me. That's where you become a car salesman, right? You've got to sell it. If you want them to give a speech for you, you really got to sell it. What's in it for them? For us in Owasso, maybe it's a different set of sales. I don't know. But we start preaching pretty early on. It's very competitive to become a chapter officer. We'll have 24 or 30 or so run for chapter office every year. We only take 6. And we kind of tell them, if you're not a speaker, you're probably not going to get office. I can't think of the last one who wasn't a speaker who got office. It's not that it's a priority. It's not that it's on a checklist. We don't require it. But our process, they interview in front of former state officers, former Owasso officers, some community members, administrators. They go through a series of interviews there to get into the top 10. The top 10 goes in front of the kids, and they get voted on still. It's still popular. 50% of it is still popular election. But they go give a speech. They give it 2 minutes or 3 minutes? 2, okay. So they give a speech. And I just tell them, like, look, it's public speaking at its finest. You got to win over the people to get in the top 10. And you got to win over your peers to be top 6. I mean, it's essentially public speaking. You want to be an officer, and it's enough of a deal for us that motivates some of our kids. The other thing is you kind of have to wait. If you got a point scale going, you need to weight it kind of heavy. You kind of make sure that it just kind of makes sense. A lot of times, like your public speakers or people who are kind of involved in your leadership stuff that really want to go to state convention. And state convention is a big trip for us. Like, even though it's in Tulsa this year, we still went down and stayed in a hotel and made it like a big reward trip. And kids are fighting to get to go on that trip. We only take about 60 to state convention. But we have 120 want to go. So they've got to earn the spot. They got to try to get on that trip. And you got to kind of weight public speaking, not heavier than everything else, but just make sure it's holding its weight, so to speak. And so we weight it kind of heavy. And then, obviously, you could earn your way to state convention. And how do you earn your way to state convention? be walking across stage. How we walk across stage, we win some CDEs, we try to win some speeches, and that's another incentive. Like if I win my division in speech, I'm going to go across stage anyway, I get to go to state convention. Simple as that. So kids are fighting their way to state convention. So our whole program, just kind of how we developed it, and it's just kind of happened. I'm not saying we've done anything better than anybody else, it just kind of happened for us. I think the whole thing kind of feeds into the whole why we give speeches. Why do 75 kids want to give a speech? And more probably that just didn't get going. It's just become a thing for us, right? It's just kind of become a process, okay? Okay. I'm right on time, for me at least. Let's see. I'm going to leave you with a couple of things. So what's in it for them? Real quick on incentives again. Here's some things we haven't done, by the way, girls, and we need to this year as officers. We need to do a better job of. We used to have a little bit more like some more reward trips throughout the year for different things. Or you just kind of honor and kind of make, if you won something big, you kind of got a little special trip here and a little special thing here. And we've kind of let that go a little bit, mainly out of sacrificing time, right? We just didn't have enough time to plug all those events in. But I think you've got to do something like that. The other thing is this, competition. What's in it for them? Competition. How many people spoke when they were in high school? Okay, about half? Good, me too. How many people showed livestock? More? Okay. I'm going to compare those two for a minute. I mean, I'll throw a third in there. How many people played sports? Okay, me too. So, of all the things I did, there's a thrill with the crowd that's going to show up at sporting events, and that's exciting. And somewhat the crowds for livestock shows and the moment you're in the rings is exciting. If you were a competitive public speaker, it's an adrenaline rush, to me, a little bit uncomparable. And maybe because I liked it, I don't know, me and my sister liked it, but man, you're literally walking in front of a group, 2, 3 judges, I guess, and you're delivering a speech. I mean, it's just, it gets you going, it's an adrenaline rush, and if you kind of get hungry for that, we talk about it, like if you haven't found competition yet in your high school career, like that's a place to do it. That's a place to go get started and find some, like, you feel that rush kind of. And then to feel those kids, like myself, like if I take kids to speech contest, I often like, man, I wish I had it. I want to go give a speech too. You know, like I wish I could. I love the idea of trying to win over a crowd, kind of, with at least those 3 judges. Another note real quick. How do I sell it to them? Talking about selling it. Mr. Holloway, I'm going to steal this from him. He said, it's not really public speaking. It's semi-private speaking, really. You think about it, right? It's like 3 judges. You don't know them. So it's not public speaking. It's semi-private speaking. And I thought, and listen, we kind of joke about it. It might be the wittiest selling point there is. Because kids all of a sudden go, it's just 2 or 3? Yeah, like, you don't even know who they are. Sometimes they do, but you don't know who they are. I mean, it's semi-private. And they're like, I can do that, you know? So if you kind of take the public speaking aspect out of it, it's not near as scary. So all of a sudden, we're just doing that semi-private speaking here in Owasso, you know? And it works. Some of those kids will get started in that, and then they get fired up, and they're like, crap, bring it on. I wouldn't mind speaking in front of thousands, you know? So we build it like that as well. Trying to stay on track a little bit, so I had some notes. Incentives, the program itself. Okay, another thing we do, and this is just kind of, I think we're probably on to the process, yeah. This is kind of the process. Another thing we do is every chapter meeting we try to have one a month or something like that. We have kids speaking. Of course, we do opening ceremonies. A lot of times for practice, if we're fixing to go to state, that meeting we're going to have in October or whatever, our OCC team does opening ceremonies at our chapter meeting. There'll be 100 kids there, so that's a little anxiety, especially in front of a bunch of other kids that know their parts. Like they beat them to get on the team. And so it's a little bit more amped up, like they work on it. Then we'll have other kids presenting for different things. And like me and Mr. Holloway very, very rarely stand up in front of the kids at a meeting. And it's mainly those guys doing all the public speaking aspect. So we're constantly training them. It is nothing from December, or actually January, on through speech season. It's nothing. Me pop in Mr. Holloway's class and be like, hey, you. And then sometimes still, hey, you. So I'm like, I forget your name. What's your name? Hey, you, give your speech. Like, what? Yeah, right now, come on. And they get used to it. They're like, where do you want me to start? We do a whole lot of this. We say, first and last paragraph. Like, here's the sad part. We have so many people giving speeches. We took kids to state this year. I never heard their speech. I mean, Mr. Holloway probably did, but I never heard it. I'd often heard the first and last paragraph. And the kids will ask me something about the middle. I'm like, I've never really heard them say the middle part of their speech, but first and last sounds pretty good. And why? It's because we can't listen. We don't have enough time to coach that many of them. So we kind of coach them on mechanics on the first and last paragraph and expect them to kind of figure out the middle part. Now, as we get narrowed down to, top 7 or 8 that can go on the state, usually we can have a chance to kind of listen to most of them. But we do that often in class. Like, they come in the ag building during speech season knowing that I'm probably going to get picked on today. So they just get prepared for it. Why is that important to me? Again, if they can say it in front of their peers, and we do this, we sell this to them all the time. If they can say it in front of their peers, they can say it at a speech contest. Our kids often say, speech contests are easy. Like after we go through a spring with you guys, like in class, speech contests are easy. I don't get nervous about that at all. I get nervous about going to class because I know you're probably going to let me say it. And sometimes it's like, let's see, they were 1 and 2 last night. What do you guys think? Hop up there, give your paragraph, give your speech, and you go next. What do you guys think? Here's another thing I would put down. I would write this down. Every kid in your chapter ought to know the other kids' speeches. And what I mean by that is this. They should say it enough that, and it's, guys, for me, it's educational. I know it's like, well, we don't just flat out just do speeches nonstop during spring, but we do incorporate a bunch of it. Why? It's because for us, there's 70-something ag topics there. And we have the kids, the students, ask the questions. They sometimes come up with better questions than any judge ever could. They come up with some great ones. Right, Mr. Stelzig? They blow me away sometimes with like questions I'm like, I didn't think you paid attention in class. That was a really good question. Good job. Bravo. And they get involved in it. And then they feel like they're part of the team, right? We still approach it like a team concept. It's not that person speaking and that person speaking. It's the Owasso public speaking team. And we want to be good. We want to be successful. And we try to involve everybody. We kind of tell that kid that didn't quite get their speech ready, hey, you stay hooked up. Like next year, you'll get done. But stay hooked up, like during questions and answers and stuff. You make sure you're getting involved there, right? So those are the things that we do like on a daily basis to get there. Now, how do we handle that for me? If I had to give you one tool, especially if you're new to ag teaching or new to ag ed or you're a few years in but you just never quite got kids started in public speaking, if I gave you one tool, this would be it. And it's just to help the kids stay organized. More than anything else, it's just to help the kids stay organized. So on one, I think I gave you the front side. I was going to run copies on front and back. They're just single-sided. Yeah. Well, never mind. They got put on both sides. I apologize if they got flipped around. I ran those off like last minute. It might be the same thing on front and back. If it is, that's okay. But you should say somewhere on there, hopefully you got something that says 9 weeks to speech. Should say something like 9 weeks to speech. Oh, it isn't? No. On the blue ones?
Yeah, it's on both sides.
Yeah, okay, this is just double-sided, but on the blue one it says 9 weeks to speech. And the back side was supposed to be something else. I apologize. It was going to be a little bit of an outline of a speech. But that's what happened, and we got in the truck and left, and I wasn't going back, so. All right, everybody got a copy? So on that is, that to me was what was missing when I was trying to, early on, get kids going. We talk about it, try to motivate them one day, and then you guys know that if you've ever done this, a week goes by since you had that little speech talk about getting started, and you kind of come at them again a week later and go, hey, where you at? And they're like, I haven't really started yet. Okay. So you give them a little pep talk, you bring 10 or 12 of them in the office and go, hey, come on, all you gotta do is get started, right? Just get started. And a week goes by and like, I haven't really got started. And I think if they're like me, and a lot of them are, because I think probably on all their level in a sense, when I look at big picture stuff, sometimes it gets intimidating to me. But it's real easy for me to look at steps. Always been that way. Like the step to me in breaking livestock. The kids will ask me about, how do you get that hog, that sheep, whatever, to lead, that sheep to lead? And I'm like, I don't really know. Let me think about that. Okay, first thing we do is just halter them and tie them up. And I got the fence sprinkle. I try to let them figure that out. And then I might try to just get them from here to that stand. And that's it. And then it's small steps. I never take one to start going down the road with them. Because I feel like it sets a kind of bad taste in their mouth. And it's overwhelming for the sheep and the kid. And so kind of same thing about the speech. It's kind of breaking it down into just do this today. And so years ago, I came up with that. And I think I did change the dates if I printed the right one. I changed the dates for what we will do this year. So those should match up with this calendar's dates, I hope, if I did it right. If not, it gives you a general idea. Because it changes for me, obviously, every year, like the calendar changes. Here's my philosophy with it. We'll have a couple kids give AFR speeches, not a handful. So we usually don't get cranking until after AFR. So you'll recognize when's state and AFR? First week of December typically. So you'll see that as soon as we're done with AFR, we turn around and kind of get started on these other speeches, right? I'm not saying it all happens like this. Let me throw out a couple things real quick on that. That 9 weeks to a speech can be done in 9 weeks. You can break it down. You can have the kids say, hey, take that. And like if you got a kid coming to you in January going, hey, I'm slow to the party, but I really want to do this. Okay, let's take that 9 weeks to speech for you and just kind of set it up on a 4-week schedule. Like you're going to amp it up. But that can be done in 4 weeks. It can be done in 9 days. If you want to know the truth, it can be done in 9 hours because I had a kid who you guys know as Stephen Tillinghast, who one day went home and basically said, I'm just going to go out my speech tonight. And I thought to myself, he'll have a rough draft. He came back, he was done. Cover page, bound, everything. I'm like, how'd you he's like, I decided to just get done. Stayed up all night long. Had it bound and everything. It was like, perfect. I'm like, but if you know Stephen, it's like, that's Stephen, you know. So I guess my point is that you can do it in 9 hours if you want to, because he did it. But you can also take 9 weeks and kind of spread it out. And to me, that's where most kids are going to fall, that they're going to kind of take their time and get something done, get a little unmotivated. That's okay, where you at? Well, I've got like a couple pages, you know, typed up. Okay, that's a pretty good start. So where's that at on the list? It's like, I don't know, step 6 or 7. Okay, then let's just work on 8. Don't worry about 10, 12, let's do 8, right? So if you'll take that, man. So if you'll take that and just kind of, again, break that down. To me, the biggest part about getting started is just getting started. Find a topic like we talked about earlier. And I really do try to put a lot of effort in there. If you want to know where my effort is, I start that. I really try to help them find a topic. And a lot of times that is just sitting down and chatting with them, right? So what are you interested in? Okay, what have you looked up? Sometimes I also like to tell them I wouldn't do that. Why? Because it just doesn't look like you. Like it just don't fit, right? You've had a kid come and like, I want to show a hog. You're like, don't really see you as a hog kid, you know? Like, don't think that's going to be good for you. You know, maybe I'm the only one, Josh, am I the only one that does that? So sometimes it's like, I just don't know if that's going to match real well. So sometimes I'm like, hey, try this. And as you get to know your kids, right? Another great thing about getting them recruited, know your kids, right? You got the kid you know, like as a diehard horse person, that's easy. We just got to get a horse-related topic, and you're going to be aces, man. It's going to be great. So why? Because he's interested in it. He wants to talk about it. Kid wanted to come talk about you know, all the genetic testing in horses and stuff, which is kind of old news, right? But he was really excited about it, you know. He didn't know, he never heard the name impressive. That's how HYPP comes from, you know. He thought that was pretty exciting. So he was a senior too. He never gave a speech before. So I'm like, man, that's your topic right there. I mean, was I thinking he's going to win state with that one? Probably not. But is he going to give a speech? Yes. And I guess I'll throw that there real quick because that hit my mind. We really, ultimately, we want to win in everything we do. I think I look around the room, I see things that you're all good at. Mr. Walden probably never buys a goat that he's not thinking success or cold. Like we're going to try to win, right? I mean, if we're going to do something, we're going to try to win. And so we want to do that. But the last page of that yellow sheet, if you flip to the last page, ultimately what I want out of speeches for those kids is confidence. Ultimately, that's it. I'm not really worried. I mean, I want to win, and I want them to win, and we want to be successful. We want to have fun because bottom line, guys, if you win, you'll have more fun, right? If you got a good calf and you're going to show up down the road showing it, it's going to be more fun if you're winning. So we want to win, but what I really want out of it, I want confidence. Again, if you're younger in here, or I guess even middle-aged, I feel like I'm still one of the younger ones, I'm not, but this is just things from us. You talk about motivating your program, do 3 things. Get them to alumni camp, get them to give a speech, and get them to state convention. Like you can do a lot of things in between. They might really work for your program, but those are 3 big ones for us. Get them to alumni camp. Why do we take so many? Because we think it's good for them. We feel like if we do that, if we get kids to alumni camp, they come back pushing us. If we push them to go, they come back pushing us. If we get a kid to give a speech, that confidence builds in them. Guess what? Then they're asking, hey, can we have a team doing this? Hey, can we do this? A lot of our state-winning CDE teams, we didn't coach them necessarily. They got super motivated. It was kind of linked up to their speech topic. All of a sudden, hey, I can do that too, be competitive. Yeah, that's right. They get involved in that. Their state-winning floriculture team. You know, like We didn't really coach them. Success breeds success. And if they're successful in one thing, they'll want to be successful in another. And then we personally find state convention a great trip for us. Some people may not. We find it as we get them to state convention, and they typically come home wanting to do more, want to get even more involved. But those are three big ones for us. To us, they're confidence builders more than anything else. Back on this. So we spend a lot of time, usually not even a week, like you talk about several weeks of like looking for topics. So you can see that. You jump down to like number 5. Pick 10 sources or find 10 sources of information on your topic and print them off. I'm still old school. I didn't bring a binder. I still like them to carry an ag binder, or a speech binder actually. And it's 1-inch notebook. They can keep everything organized in a computer somewhere. The problem with that, like me, my house, internet in my house is pretty stinky. So Google Docs, I can't really get to them. So a lot of things are saved on my computer's desktop in a sense, because if I'm home, I don't have internet access, I can't work on anything. Same thing with a lot of these kids. Their binder doesn't require that. So they can be working on their speech going down the road. A lot of my kids giving speeches aren't driving yet. They can be working on, I can encourage them, hey, how long will it take you to get home every day? 15 minutes. That's 30 minutes a day working on your speech. Like, be working on it, be looking stuff up, looking stuff up on your phone, writing it down. So I try to get most of them to get going with a binder, keep all their stuff kind of organized. If you look on there, you'll see, look up 10 sources, basically combine that into one page, print it off. Look up 10 sources, I think it ends up being like 40 sources. Some people may think, wow, that's way too many sources. We may write our speech off 2 sources, but if they've looked up 40 sources, when it comes time to Q&A, we're going to kick your tail. So we got to write good speeches, but man, they got to know their stuff comes questions and answers, right? And if they've done all that research, they might just be the expert in the room. Even when they get to state, when they got some pretty good judges, they might know more about their topic than anybody else they spoke to the entire year, because they've researched it in that kind of in-depth. Man, they know it. So do I need 40 sources to write a speech? No, I don't. Probably 3, 4, 5 probably is a good average. But if I've got that many in my binder, man. So you can talk about our success. Yeah, we try to write good speeches, but honestly, I don't think I never read a speech and just go, whoa, that was a great one. They're good. I think they're all good. We try to make good speeches, right? But more than anything else, when we get ready to question, a lot of times we have speech practice and the kids don't even give their speech. Well, I just start, Q&A. Questions and answers, questions and answers, questions and answers. So I have some great speakers that get to the end and go, thank you, and they're done. And you start finding questions at them, they're like, oh, great speaker, like really, really good speaker. But at the end, they're like, I don't know. I'm like, then you gotta know, then you gotta know, then you gotta know. You gotta look up that stuff. So a couple other things we throw out there, they ought to have like one big name to name drop. Someone big in ag, former state officer, someone that maybe linked to their community, that'd be really cool. They got to have a name to name drop, like someone they can drop, And it helps if they've actually had a phone call or a conversation with that person. That's really cool for them to be able to say in their Q&A, hey, I recently spoke to so-and-so, Secretary of Agriculture, blah, 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 So they're able to rattle that off, man. Just judges love that kind of stuff, right? So real quick, just kind of wrap this part up real quick. I need to be done in about 3 minutes. I think this is probably the best tool that we've ever developed to help get them their speeches ready to actually write a speech in a sense, okay? So if you want to ask more about that, real quick, I'm going to throw this out and let these girls speak. My email address, I didn't put it on there, should have. One thing I did forget to put on there is david.turner at owassops.org. There's markers, no. So david.turner at owassops, as in public school.org. Email me, we'd be glad to talk, or my phone number actually. I'm not afraid to give it out because as a kid reminded me it's been on my ag truck since March. So my number is 918-521-5120. 918-521-5120. I'm driving out 86th Street the other day. It's like the main drag in Owasso. And I hadn't erased even one number yet on my phone number. And surprisingly, it took them 3 months for this to happen. I get a phone call. Why I picked it up, because I usually don't answer phone calls like that, but I answered it. And I was like, hello? And he said, hey, is that you? And I went, yeah. I'm thinking it's one of my kids messing with me, so I'm kind of messing with him a little bit back. And he's like, that's you in the silver truck. And I'm like, that's me. Hey, what's that big thing in the back of your truck? And I'm like, well, it's not one of my kids, because I had a popper in the back of the truck. And I'm like, hey, we carry livestock with it. And I'm like, where is this going, He's like, oh, it's cool. Would you give me that? And I was like, that's not mine to give. So, no, guess not. And finally, I'm like, who is this? He goes, the guy that just passed you. And he just saw my number and thought, is that his phone number? Called me up, and we had a 5-minute phone call. Hey, real quick, if you want to stick around for a minute, if you want to go ahead and start transitioning, that's fine too. They're going to give the first and last paragraph of their speech. If they, now they just picked it up and memorized it again last night, so bear with them. But Ella, this is just first and last paragraph of her speech. You're welcome to put that right next so I'll follow you. Anyway, so just so you see what some of our kids look like, and fire away.
Warm sunshine grazes your skin as you stand in the middle of a vast field of flowers that extends past the horizons in the depth of your vision. The aroma of wildflowers beneath engulfs you, and every one of your senses has reached maximum relaxation. However, just as quickly as you found relaxation, it slips away as your ears catch the startling beep of your alarm clock, signaling your 6 a.m. wake-up call. While this ideal night of sleep is far from the reality that most of us face, it is a dream far from reach for some. Yes, alarm clocks are annoying, but what if I told you that some people wake up to a different buzz in the morning? Their deep sleep is often interrupted by the alerting vibration and signal that their blood sugar levels are climbing way too high or way too low. What can I say? It's just another normal night for a person with diabetes. The semi-normal lifestyle that I have been able to live for the past 10 years was only made possible by the agricultural industry. You see, my life experiences are a product of the amazing industry that we all depend on every day. While there is no way for me to give back to the agriculture industry in the magnitude that it has given to me, I will make it my mission to be able to educate others about how much agriculture has impacted the medical advancements in the journey to cure diabetes. Best in Banning's agriculturally based experiments were the catalyst to treating the illness that stretches from every corner and crevice of the earth, that has affected the lives of so many and will continue to be a potential solution to the up-and-coming COVID-19 diabetes. Porcine and bovine insulin may very well be the peaceful sleep and peace of mind for millions of others, as well as myself. Thank you.
Guys, you're going to do the first paragraph. You're going to do the first. Switch off real quick. This is just the creed.
The FFA Creed by E.M. Tiffany. I believe in the future of agriculture, with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won by the present and past generations of agriculturalists, in the promise of better days through better ways, even as the better things we now enjoy have come to us from the struggles of former years.
Just a couple of them. Give me that real quick. So, on our styles, again, you contact me. I'd be glad to carry on. Like I said, I probably have covered speaking in general to more ag teachers. That's one thing I can help them with. I make lots of phone calls and get lots of help in other areas. So I love to swap off that information. Our presentation styles differ quite a bit in Owasso. It has to because we have so many speakers. So what I try to do is try to help them be them and try to kind of fine tune that. We have some that's a little bit more powerful, some that's a little more reserved, some that's a little bit more conversational, and we kind of let them kind of learn what works best for them. And you will know because they'll win or they won't. And if they're not winning, we try to help them get better. So we kind of have a little different philosophy there too on that style. For me, it's kind of really what works best for that individual kid. Call me, email me. I'd be glad to carry on this conversation. I'm sorry I ran short of time. I hope you have something there you can take with you and get something out of that. But what I really like to talk with you later on is a little bit more about the development of the speech or actually presentation itself. If you want more details there, man, we need to talk this summer. Have a great one. I'm done. Good. Thank you, guys.
If you haven't already, please scan one of these orange sheets to evaluate the workshop for us. And our next round starts at 10.
See you later.
Take your break. Take your break. Just your downtime.
Either wire that structured your class or wire that structured your team, and ask questions about it. Because I did it last year.
I found your chalk that you could have used, even though there's not a chalkboard. Every chalkboard. Oh yeah, no. His handwriting's on the glass. What does that say?
Confidence in prayer.
Nice.
Yeah. You read that?
No.
You didn't read any of it?
Describe their community. Glossophobia. I can read some of it.
Today, oh, thanks. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you guys. You
Yeah,
done
no
a great team. Let's go through my bag. Is that your first?
You got it. I got a hairbrush.
Good.
You wouldn't be able to get some right job if you want like this.
Okay, I got your secrets now. Maybe if I get it open.
Yeah, when I saw you were ready to go, I was like,